The stars looked different from this viewing platform. Catherine Wilson stood with her hands behind her back, watching the strange constellations through the massive window of the Arcturian diplomatic vessel. After 20 years in the Earth space forces, she had thought nothing could surprise her anymore. She was wrong. "Admiral Wilson, the Council will see you now," said a soft voice behind her. Catherine turned to face the alien aide, a tall, willowy creature with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. She nodded and straightened her dark blue uniform before following the aide through corridors that seemed too tall and too narrow at the same time. 5 days ago, her patrol ship had encountered the Arcturian vessel at the edge of the solar system. First contact, the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. And now she, a simple admiral from the Earth Expeditionary Force, was about to meet the representatives of something called the Galactic Conclave. The doors slid open to reveal a circular chamber. 7 different alien species sat around a crescent-shaped table. Their forms varied wildly. Some had too many limbs, others too few. Some had exoskeletons that clicked when they moved. One appeared to be made entirely of something like living crystal. At the center sat Ambassador Vrelta, the first alien Catherine had spoken to when the communication channels opened. He looked almost like a tall, thin human with elongated fingers and pale blue skin, until you noticed the second set of smaller arms folded neatly at his waist and the eyes that blinked sideways. "Admiral Wilson of Earth," Vrelta announced, to the chamber. "Please approach." Catherine walked forward with the steady gait of someone used to military discipline. She had been chosen for this mission because of her cool head and diplomatic experience, not because anyone expected her to actually find aliens. "The data your ship transmitted has been analyzed," Vrelta said, his voice carrying a strange musical quality. "We have confirmed the planetary conditions of your homeworld." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing Earth, beautiful, blue and green and swirled with white clouds. "Your world has been classified as a Category 5 environment," continued a different alien with rust-colored scales and a voice like grinding stones. "In our system, this is known as a death world." Catherine frowned. "Death world? Earth is full of life." "Precisely," said Vrelta. "Life that has evolved under extreme conditions. Your gravity is 1.5 times the galactic average for habitable worlds. Your atmospheric pressure is extremely high. Your planet experiences violent weather patterns, tectonic activity, and hosts predatory fauna of remarkable aggression." The hologram shifted to show hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and various predators. Lions taking down prey, sharks swimming, even a simple house cat pouncing on a toy. "Your species evolved on that?" Vrelta asked, his translucent appendages trembling slightly as the images played. Catherine couldn't help but smile. "We call those weather events. The tsunamis are particularly good for surfing." A murmur ran through the council members. "Surfing?" asked a being that appeared to be made of something like folded paper. "It's a sport. You stand on a board and ride ocean waves for fun," Catherine explained. Another ripple of what she assumed was shock moved through the aliens. "Fun," repeated Vrelta slowly, as if testing an unfamiliar concept. "You intentionally expose yourselves to deadly natural forces. For entertainment?" Catherine nodded, beginning to understand their reaction. "I'm starting to think our definitions of deadly might be different." The hologram changed again, this time showing human history. Wars, technological development, cities rising and falling, all at a speed that made Catherine dizzy. "Your species shows remarkable resilience and adaptability," said another council member, this one floating in a personal containment field filled with greenish liquid. "Yet also concerning tendencies toward conflict and rapid technological advancement, without corresponding periods of cultural stabilization." Catherine remained silent. There wasn't much she could say to deny humanity's violent past. Vrelta leaned forward. "Admiral Wilson, the Galactic Conclave is an association of 87 spacefaring species. We maintain peace, regulate trade, and share knowledge throughout this sector of the galaxy. After reviewing the data about your world and species, we have decided to extend an invitation of membership to Earth." Catherine blinked in surprise. She had expected a longer negotiation. That's generous. May I ask why? A soft chime filled the room, apparently some form of alien laughter. Truthfully, said Vrelta, species from Deathworlds are rare. Only 3 others have achieved spaceflight in the Conclave's history. You are the first in over 600 standard years. Your unique evolutionary background makes your perspective valuable. The way he said valuable made Catherine suspect he meant something closer to useful, or perhaps exploitable, and, added the crystalline being, its voice producing harmonics, that made Catherine's teeth ache. It is typically wiser to include potential threats rather than ignore them. At least they were honest. I'll need to consult with Earth's governments before accepting, Catherine said carefully. Of course, Vrelta nodded. We will provide you with a complete explanation of Conclave membership, benefits, and obligations. You may return to Earth with this information and a small delegation of Conclave representatives. After the meeting, Catherine found herself back at the viewing platform, staring out at the stars. Vrelta joined her there, standing a careful distance away. You seem troubled, Admiral, he observed. Just processing, Catherine replied. Yesterday I was on a routine patrol. Today I'm discussing alien alliances. Vrelta's 4 hands made a complicated gesture. Change can be difficult. Not for humans, Catherine smiled. We're quite good at adapting, it's practically our specialty. Yes, Vrelta said quietly. That is what concerns some members of the Council. And what do they plan to do with us Deathworlders? Catherine asked directly. Vrelta hesitated before answering. The Council sees humans as potentially valuable assets. Your natural resilience and combat capabilities would be useful in certain situations. You want soldiers, Catherine translated. Peacekeepers, Vrelta corrected smoothly. The Conclave has enemies beyond its borders, species with fewer ethical constraints. Catherine turned to face the alien fully. Ambassador, I appreciate honesty. If Earth joins your conclave, we won't be content to simply provide muscle while others make decisions. That's not how humans operate. With respect, Admiral, few species adapt well to galactic politics. It requires patience developed over generations. The humans are formidable fighters, but they lack the temperament for statecraft. Keep them as mercenaries, nothing more. Vrelta spoke as if reciting something he had said before. Catherine's smile turned sharp. Then I suggest you prepare for surprise, Ambassador. Humans don't like being underestimated. As the ship began its journey toward Earth, Catherine watched her home planet grow larger in the viewing screens. Blue, beautiful, and deadly. The cradle of a species that had survived everything a hostile world could throw at them. The Conclave thought they were recruiting warriors. They would soon learn that on a death world, every survivor is also a diplomat, a scholar, an engineer, and a visionary, or they wouldn't have survived at all. Commander Alan Foster stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiant, watching the stars streak by as they traveled at speeds he still couldn't quite believe possible. 3 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Conclave. 3 years of humans slowly integrating into the vast ancient civilization that spanned hundreds of star systems. 3 years of being treated like dangerous pets. Commander, we're approaching the Epsilon Eridani system, reported Lieutenant Samantha Lee from the navigation station. Conclave Central requests we assume standard defensive formation alongside the Meridian vessels. Alan nodded. Acknowledged. Match course and speed with the Meridian flagship. The Epsilon Eridani colony was a vital hub connecting 17 Conclave worlds. When reports came in of an attack by the mysterious Nezdari Empire, the Conclave had deployed their limited defense forces, including a small human contingent led by Alan's ship. The Defiant slowed as it entered the system, falling into formation with the elegant, gleaming ships of the Meridian fleet. Where human vessels were solid, blocky, and practical, Meridian ships looked like works of art, all sweeping curves and translucent sections that seemed too delicate for combat. Opening communication channel, announced Communications Officer Zoe Rivera. Meridian command ship responding. The main screen flickered to life, showing the narrow face of Texel, the Meridian tactical officer. Like most Meridians, he had silvery skin that seemed to glow from within and large, almond-shaped eyes that blinked rarely. Human vessel. Texel greeted them formally. Your presence is acknowledged. Please maintain your current position in the defensive grid. The Nezdari forces have been detected at the edge of the system. What's the situation? Alan asked. Kexel's expression was difficult to read, but his tone carried concern. The Nezdari fleet is larger than anticipated. 36 warships, including 3 capital ships. Our defensive force consists of 22 vessels. Alan's tactical display showed the approaching enemy formation. The Nezdari ships moved with perfect coordination, like pieces on a chessboard. Intelligence on them was limited. They were newcomers to this sector of space, apparently expanding from the galactic rim with terrifying efficiency. We have our orders, Taxel continued. Defend the colony until reinforcements arrive. They are expected in approximately 6 hours. Alan studied the tactical display with growing concern. 6 hours? Look at their approach vector and speed. They'll break through our lines in 2. Taxel's silver skin rippled slightly, a sign of distress. The Conclave High Command has calculated. Your calculations didn't account for Nezdari battle tactics, Alan interrupted. We've studied the recordings from their last 3 encounters. They always start with a feint to the center before dividing their forces to flank from multiple angles. The Meridian officer stared at him. That would be highly inefficient. Standard combat doctrine suggests. An alarm cut him off. The tactical display flashed as the Nezdari fleet suddenly accelerated and began splitting into 3 distinct groups. They're doing exactly what I predicted, Alan said. They'll surround the colony in under 2 hours. We need to change our approach. We have our orders, Texel insisted, though his voice wavered. We must maintain defensive formation until reinforcements arrive. Alan shook his head. If we stay in this formation, we'll be outflanked and destroyed. Those reinforcements will arrive to find nothing but debris. Before Taxel could respond, a new alarm sounded. Sir? Samantha called out. The observatory station is detecting a massive magnetic storm forming in the system's outer belt. It's unlike anything they've seen before. Alan moved to her station, examining the readings. His eyes narrowed as an idea formed. Tell, he said, turning back to the screen. The Nezdari ships, their shields use polarized energy fields, correct? The Meridian looked surprised. Yes. How did you? Because we've been studying them, Alan replied. And polarized fields are vulnerable to extreme magnetic interference. He pointed to the readings. That storm is generating magnetic pulses that could disrupt their shield harmonics. If we can lure them into it. That's suicide, Taxel protested, his voice rising. No ship can navigate that storm. The magnetic interference would disable our systems too. Alan smiled grimly. On Earth, we call that Tuesday sailing weather. Our ships were designed to function in extreme electromagnetic environments. Earth's magnetic field fluctuates constantly. We built safeguards into our systems from the beginning. Taxel's large eyes blinked rapidly. You're proposing we lead the Nezdari fleet into the magnetic storm? Not we, Alan corrected. The human ships. Your vessels wouldn't survive it. Hold your position here, protect the colony from any ships that don't follow us. The Conclave tactical protocols don't allow for... There's no time for protocols, Alan cut him off. The Nezdari will reach firing range in 20 minutes. Make your choice. After a moment of hesitation, Tell nodded. Proceed with your plan, Commander. May fortune favor you. Alan turned to his crew. All hands, battle stations. Navigation. Plot a course that will lead the Nezdari fleet directly into the heart of that magnetic storm. Communications. Inform the other human vessels of the plan. As the Defiant and 3 other human ships broke formation, the Nezdari fleet immediately adjusted their approach, clearly identifying the smaller group as an easier target. They're taking the bait, Samantha reported. All Nezdari vessels have altered course to pursue. Alan watched the tactical display with intense focus. Steady. Maintain speed where we need them to commit fully to the pursuit. The human ships raced toward the swirling chaos of the magnetic storm. Behind them, the Nezdari fleet followed, their superior speed closing the gap rapidly. Storm boundary in 30 seconds, Samantha announced. Nezdari vessels in weapons range. Reinforce our electromagnetic shielding, Alan ordered. Prepare for rough sailing. The first impacts of the storm hit the Defiant like physical blows. The ship shuddered and groaned. Warning lights flashed across every console. Shield output dropping to 60%, reported Engineering Officer Paul Garcia. Compensating. Rerouting power from non-essential systems. Behind them, the first Nezdari ships entered the storm's edge. Almost immediately, their perfect formation began to falter. Nezdari shields are fluctuating, Zoe called out. Their communications appear to be failing. Now, Alan ordered. Full reverse thrust. Bring all weapons online. The Defiant shuddered again, this time from the strain of its engines reversing direction. The 3 other human ships followed suit, their movements less coordinated in the storm but still functional. The Nezdari ships, caught unprepared by both the storm's effects and the humans' sudden maneuver, collided with one another. Their shield systems failed completely, leaving them vulnerable. Target their propulsion systems, Alan commanded. Fire when ready. What followed was chaos. The human vessels, though struggling against the storm themselves, maintained enough control to launch precision strikes against the disoriented Nezdari ships. One by one, the enemy vessels drifted helplessly or attempted to retreat, only to be caught by the Meridian forces waiting at the edge of the storm. By the time the reinforcements arrived 6 hours later, the battle was long over. The Nezdari fleet lay in ruins, and the human contingent, though badly damaged, emerged victorious. As Alan's battered ship limped back to the colony, he received a direct communication from the Conclave High Council, something unprecedented for a commander of his rank. Commander Foster, the ancient counselor's voice was grave. Your tactics today were unorthodox. Alan waited for the reprimand he expected would follow. Instead, the counselor continued, for the first time in the Conclave's long history, we have witnessed a complete defensive victory against a superior Nezdari force. Perhaps we have underestimated the value of Deathworld thinking. Alan simply nodded, too exhausted for words. The humans had proven their worth as warriors today, but he knew this was just the beginning. If the Conclave thought humans were only good for fighting, they had much more to learn about the species that evolved on Earth. Olivia Martinez adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform as she walked toward the great chamber of the Conclave High Council. The victory at Epsilon Eridani 1 month ago had changed everything. For the first time, humans were being invited to participate in high-level strategic discussions. Olivia had been an ambassador on Earth before first contact. Now she represented humanity to the stars. She took a deep breath and entered the chamber. Inside, representatives from 30 different species sat in tiered seats facing a central speaking platform. Voices hushed as she entered. Some delegates leaned forward with interest. Others drew back slightly, still wary of the Deathworlders. High Counselor Zim Ara, an ancient being from one of the founding conclave species, gestured for Olivia to approach the platform. Unlike most aliens, Zimara's species resembled massive sea creatures, with wrinkled blue-gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Ambassador Martinez, Zimara's voice resonated through the chamber. The Conclave has called this emergency session to address the growing Nezdari threat. Since your people achieved an unexpected victory, we invite you to share your perspective. Olivia stepped onto the platform. The translator device at her throat would convert her words for all present. Thank you, High Counselor, she began. The victory at Epsilon Eridani was significant, but it was only a single battle. The Nezdari Empire continues to advance on multiple fronts. Our analysis suggests they will attack 3 more systems within the next month. She touched a control pad, and the holographic display in the center of the chamber lit up, showing star maps and movement patterns. The Conclave's traditional response is too slow, Olivia continued. By the time decisions move through all proper, Channels, the Nezdari have already adjusted their strategy. We need a more flexible approach. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zimara's upper eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting, Ambassador? Asked a representative from the Pleiadian collective, their crystalline form catching the light. Olivia tapped another control. The display changed to show a new organizational structure. I propose a coalition of independent systems, each with the authority to make defensive decisions without waiting for central approval. The chamber erupted in protests. This is not how things are done, Zimara objected, voice rising above the noise. The conclave speaks with one voice. It has always been so. Olivia waited for the noise to settle. With respect, Counselor, on Earth we have a saying, adapt or die. The Nezdari don't care about your traditions. Your proposal would undermine 1,000 years of conclave unity, said another representative. Unity means nothing if we're all destroyed, Olivia replied. The Nezdari adapt quickly. We must do the same. The debate raged for hours. Olivia stood firm, addressing each concern with patience but unwavering determination. She had expected resistance. On Earth, she had negotiated peace treaties between nations that had been enemies for generations. This was no different. Your species has been part of the conclave for merely 3 years, said Tralvik, a representative of the Arcturian Union. You cannot expect us to abandon our ways based on the word of newcomers. We're not asking you to abandon anything, Olivia countered. We're offering an additional approach, one that can work alongside traditional methods. She brought up new data on the display, analysis of Nezdari attack patterns compared to conclave response times. Look at these numbers, she said. When decisions required approval from the Central Council, response time averaged 46 hours. The Nezdari typically complete their attacks in less than 12. As the session continued, Olivia noticed something interesting. The younger representatives from various species began nodding in agreement. Some even spoke up in support. The human proposal has merit, said Kelshaw, a young Meridian diplomat. My world sits at the edge of Nezdari expansion. We cannot afford to wait for approval when minutes may determine our survival. By the end of the session, Olivia had secured enough support for a compromise. Her coalition structure would be implemented on a trial basis for systems directly threatened by Nezdari expansion. Other systems would maintain traditional protocols. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Zimara approached Olivia privately. You surprised me today, Ambassador, the ancient being said. I expected demands for military authority. Instead, you offered a diplomatic solution. Olivia smiled. Humans are more than just warriors, Counselor. On Earth, survival required cooperation as much as strength. Your coalition will face its first test soon, Zimara warned. Nezdari forces have been detected approaching the Rigel system. Then, we should prepare immediately, Olivia replied. 3 days later, she sat in a secure communication center with representatives from 12 systems, coordinating the first response under the new coalition structure. Admiral Catherine Wilson joined remotely from the Human Defense Fleet. Nezdari forces will reach Rigel in approximately 9 hours, Catherine reported. We've positioned our ships according to Commander Foster's strategy. Olivia nodded. The Pleiadians and Meridians have agreed to support your flanking maneuver. The Arcturians were hesitant but came around after seeing the latest intelligence. On the large display, representatives from each system reported their preparations. The coalition moved with a speed unprecedented in conclave history. Decisions that would have taken days were made in minutes. Battle plans were adjusted in real time as new information came in. When the Nezdari fleet arrived at Rigel, they encountered not the fragmented, slow-responding defense they expected, but a coordinated force prepared for their specific attack patterns. The battle was brief. The Nezdari suffered heavy losses and retreated without capturing any territory, the first clear defeat of their expansion campaign. As the victory reports came in, Olivia received a direct communication from High Counselor Zimara. Your coalition structure has proven effective, the ancient being acknowledged. The Conclave Security Council will convene tomorrow to discuss expanding its implementation. Thank you, Counselor, Olivia replied. We're grateful for your support. Do not mistake pragmatism for approval, Zimara said. Many still doubt the wisdom of changing our ways. Change is difficult, Olivia agreed, but necessary for survival. After the communication ended, Olivia leaned back in her chair, exhausted, but satisfied. The coalition had worked. Humans had proven their value beyond the battlefield. But this was just the beginning. As she studied the reports from the battle, Olivia noted how each species had contributed unique strengths. The Pleiadian sensor technology had detected Nezdari cloaked ships. The Meridian's energy shields had protected vulnerable positions. Human tactical flexibility had enabled rapid responses to unexpected threats. Together, they were stronger than any single approach could be. That was the true lesson Earth had taught its people. Diversity increased resilience. As she prepared her report for Earth's government, Olivia smiled. The Conclave had initially accepted humans as useful warriors. Now they were beginning to see the full potential of Deathworld diplomacy, pragmatic, adaptive, and surprisingly effective. The Nezdari had unwittingly done what peaceful first contact could not. Forced the Conclave to see humans as equals, and equals could become leaders, given time. 6 months after the first coalition victory, Admiral Ryan Garcia stood on the command deck of the Earth flagship Intrepid. Around him, officers from 7 different species worked at various stations. The Intrepid had become the central command vessel for the unified defense forces. Ryan had not expected this assignment. After 20 years in Earth's Navy, he had planned to retire soon. Then, the Nezdari came, and everything changed. Now he served as Supreme Commander of the United Forces, the first human to hold such a high military position in the Conclave's long history. Status report, Ryan called out. A Pleiadian officer named Dalvin approached. Unlike most of his crystalline species, Dalvin had volunteered for direct combat duty. His forearms moved in perfect coordination as he handed over a datapad. The counteroffensive proceeds as planned, Supreme Commander, Dalvin reported. 3 previously occupied systems have been reclaimed. Nezdari forces are retreating along the main corridor. Ryan studied the tactical display. The coalition forces had been pushing back steadily for the past 2 months. After a year of defensive actions, they were finally taking the fight to the enemy. And the new training programs? Ryan asked. The mixed species combat teams are performing beyond expectations, Dalvin replied. Though some officers still question your methods. Ryan nodded. He had completely restructured the Conclave's military training, implementing techniques developed on Earth for operating in hostile environments. You're training us to fight like humans? Dalvin had asked during his first day. I'm training you to survive, Ryan had replied. On Earth, children learn to adapt to changing conditions before they learn to speak. That's what we need now. The coalition forces had begun a methodical counteroffensive, reclaiming occupied systems one by one. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to reverse engineer Nezdari technology. Human intelligence officers collaborated with Arcturian tacticians to analyze enemy patterns and predict their movements. The Proxima Centauri operation begins in 12 hours. Dalvin continued. All ships are in position. Ryan's plan for Proxima Centauri was his most daring yet. It involved splitting their forces into seemingly vulnerable groups, only to spring a complex trap that would envelop the entire Nezdari fleet. When he had first proposed it, even his own officers had questioned the strategy. It violates every principle of unified force deployment. First strategist Kimmel, an Arcturian tactical expert, had objected. Sometimes the best defense is to appear vulnerable, Ryan had explained. We're counting on the Nezdari to follow their usual pattern of attacking weaker targets first. Now as the operation approached, Ryan felt the weight of his decision. If he was wrong, thousands of lives from dozens of species would be lost. He left the command deck and retired to his private quarters. There, he reviewed the battle plans once more. The strategy was complex. Some would say unnecessarily so. But Ryan knew the Nezdari had begun adapting to simpler tactics. They needed to stay unpredictable. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. "Enter," Ryan called. First strategist Kim L stepped inside. The tall, blue-skinned Arcturian looked troubled. "Supreme Commander, I've come to express concerns about the Proxima Centauri operation," Kimmel said formally. Ryan gestured to a chair. "Speak freely, strategist." "The pattern is too complex for our analytical systems to determine its effectiveness," Kimmel said. "By dividing our forces, we create multiple potential points of failure." Ryan nodded. "That's true, but it also creates multiple potential points of victory." He pulled up a holographic display and placed a physical object on the table, a chess board with pieces arranged mid-game. "Do you know this game?" Ryan asked. Kimmel examined the board. "I've studied it. An Earth strategy game based on antiquated warfare. Yet its principles remain relevant," Ryan said. "Look at this position. White appears to be losing, pieces scattered, king exposed. He moved a knight piece. But this move forces a sequence that leads to victory in 5 turns." Kimmel studied the board, then looked up. The apparent weakness was planned. "Exactly," Ryan confirmed. "Sometimes you sacrifice pieces to win the game." The Arcturian was silent for a moment. "Your species thinks differently than ours. We seek the clearest path to victory. You deliberately create complexity and risk. On Earth, those who survived learned to use chaos to their advantage," and Ryan explained. "When your world tries to kill you daily, you learn that perfect solutions rarely exist. You adapt, improvise, and overcome." After Kimmel left, Ryan returned to the command deck. As the hours counted down to the operation, he received a communication from Olivia Martinez. "The diplomatic corps has your back, Admiral," she said. "We've secured support from 3 previously neutral systems. They're sending reinforcements." "Good timing," Ryan replied. "We'll need them for the next phase, assuming we survive this one." Olivia's expression grew serious. "The Conclave is watching this operation closely. Some still doubt the wisdom of putting humans in leadership positions." "Then we'll just have to succeed," Ryan said simply. The battle for Proxima Centauri began exactly as scheduled. The coalition forces split into 5 distinct groups, each appearing to protect a different strategic location. As predicted, the Nezdari concentrated their attack on what seemed to be the weakest group. From his command center, Ryan watched the enemy ships move precisely as he had anticipated. Hours passed as the complex dance of fleets continued across the star system. To outside observers, it might have looked like the coalition was losing, retreating on multiple fronts, sacrificing positions. Then came the moment Ryan had been waiting for. The Nezdari committed their reserve forces to what they perceived as a final push against a vulnerable target. "All ships, execute pattern checkmate," Ryan ordered. Across the system, coalition vessels that had appeared to be in retreat suddenly changed course. Hidden reinforcements emerged from sensor shadows. The scattered groups converged in a coordinated maneuver that left the Nezdari fleet surrounded on all sides. For the first time, the Nezdari were not merely defeated, but routed, their remaining ships fleeing in disarray. As damage reports and victory confirmations flooded in, First Strategist Kimmel approached Ryan on the command deck. "How did you conceive of such a plan?" Kimmel asked. "Our predictive models would never have suggested such a strategy." Ryan smiled slightly. "Chess. It's a game humans have played for thousands of years. Sometimes you have to think several moves ahead." The victory at Proxima Centauri marked a turning point in the war. News spread quickly throughout the conclave. Worlds. For the first time, species that had dismissed humans as primitive warriors began to recognize something more: strategic thinking that defied conventional wisdom, yet produced undeniable results. As Ryan looked out at the stars from the observation deck, he thought about Earth, the harsh, beautiful world that had shaped humanity. The Conclave had initially viewed humans as dangerous curiosities, then as useful soldiers. Now, they were beginning to understand what it truly meant to evolve on a death world. It wasn't just about physical strength or aggression. It was about seeing opportunities where others saw only threats. It was about turning disadvantages into advantages. It was about embracing change rather than fearing it. The Nezdari had awakened something unexpected in the previously stagnant conclave, the recognition that stability without adaptation led to vulnerability. And humans, it seemed, were masters of adaptation. One standard year after the Proxima Centauri victory, Elizabeth Summers stood at the large window of her office in Geneva, watching Earth's weather patterns swirl in the sky above. Snow fell gently outside, a stark contrast to the heated discussions taking place inside the United Earth Government building. As the newly appointed Galactic Chancellor, the first human to hold the highest office in the conclave, Elizabeth faced challenges that made the war seem simple by comparison. Building peace was always harder than winning conflicts. A soft chime announced her next appointment. The door slid open to reveal Ambassador Vrelta, the Arcturian who had first classified humans as Deathworlders 5 years ago. Chancellor Summers, Vrelta greeted her with the formal forearm gesture of his people. "Thank you for making time in your schedule," Elizabeth smiled. "Of course, Ambassador. Please sit down." Vrelta took a seat across from her desk. Through the window behind him, the snow continued to fall. The Arcturian shivered slightly, despite the room's carefully regulated temperature. "Your world remains as intimidating as ever," he commented. "I don't know how your delegates can focus on the peace conference while enduring these conditions." "Snow?" Elizabeth laughed. "This is mild. Some humans consider this perfect weather for outdoor activities." Vrelta's expression showed polite disbelief. "The conference delegates from 87 species are struggling with Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Many are using personal environmental suits. Yet they agreed to hold the peace conference here," Elizabeth pointed out. "That's progress. The war had ended 3 months ago with the unconditional surrender of the Nezdari Empire. The final peace treaty was being negotiated in the same building, 17 floors below Elizabeth's office." "Progress indeed," Vrelta agreed. 5 years ago, most conclave species viewed humans as dangerous curiosities. Now they accept a human chancellor. Elizabeth leaned forward. "Not all of them accept it. The old guard is still resistant to change." "Change has been necessary," Vrelta admitted. "The conclave existed for over 1,000 years before humans arrived. We had grown comfortable, perhaps too comfortable to recognize threats like the Nezdari." A display on Elizabeth's desk lit up with new information about the peace negotiations. She scanned it quickly. "The Nezdari delegates have accepted our terms for technological exchange," she noted. "That's a significant step forward." "Your approach to peace has surprised many," Vrelta said. "When humans defeated the Nezdari, most expected harsh penalties. Instead, you offered integration and cooperation," Elizabeth nodded. "Crushing your enemy completely only creates resentment that leads to future conflicts. We learned that lesson the hard way on Earth." She stood and walked back to the window, watching the snowflakes drift past. The conclave believed that evolution on a death world made humans uniquely suited for warfare, she said thoughtfully. What they failed to understand was that surviving on Earth required more than physical strength or aggression. It demanded cooperation, innovation, and the ability to thrive amid constant change. She turned to face the ambassador. "These aren't just traits for winning wars. They're the foundation of lasting civilizations." Vrelta studied her with all 4 of his eyes. "You've transformed the conclave in 5 short years. The rigid hierarchical structure that existed for millennia has been replaced by your coalition system. Some elder species find this unsettling." "Change is always unsettling," Elizabeth acknowledged, "but necessary for survival. The galaxy is evolving, Ambassador. Either we evolve with it or we risk becoming obsolete." Their conversation was interrupted by another chime, an urgent message. Elizabeth activated her communication device. "Chancellor, the Nezdari delegates have proposed an unexpected addition to the treaty," reported Olivia Martinez, now serving as Chief Diplomatic Advisor. "They want to establish a joint research initiative with humans specifically." Elizabeth raised her eyebrows in surprise. The same humans they were trying to exterminate a year ago? They say they've never encountered a species that adapted so quickly to their tactics, Olivia explained. They believe a partnership would benefit both sides. After ending the communication, Elizabeth smiled at Vrelta's curious expression. It seems even our former enemies see value in Deathworld thinking, she said. Vrelta made a gesture that indicated thoughtful consideration. Throughout the galaxy, a new phrase has entered our diplomatic lexicon, the Deathworld paradigm. It describes governance that embraces change rather than resisting it, that finds strength in diversity rather than conformity. Elizabeth moved to her desk and activated the large holographic display that dominated the center of the room. It showed the current structure of the reformed conclave, a network of interconnected systems rather than a rigid hierarchy. Species that had never cooperated before now worked together on joint projects. Ideas and innovations flowed freely across traditional boundaries. We've only just begun, Elizabeth said. The coalition was formed for war, but its principles work even better for peace. Adaptive governance, distributed authority, collaborative problem-solving, these concepts can transform the conclave into something greater than it ever was before. Vrelta stood to leave. When your species joined the conclave, many feared you would bring chaos and destruction. Instead, you brought necessary change. After the ambassador departed, Elizabeth returned to the window. The snow had stopped, and weak sunlight broke through the clouds. Below, delegates from dozens of worlds moved between buildings, many struggling with Earth's conditions yet determined to participate in shaping the new galactic order. 5 years ago, humanity had been dismissed as dangerous curiosities, Deathworlders, who might be useful in battle but had no place in civilized governance. Now a human stood at the helm of the largest interstellar civilization in known space. As Elizabeth prepared for the next round of negotiations, she thought about Earth, the harsh, beautiful world that had shaped humanity through countless generations of struggle and adaptation. The planet that other species feared had produced exactly the perspective the galaxy needed. Later that day, as she addressed the final session of the peace conference, Elizabeth looked out at the assembled delegates, representatives from 87 species including former enemies. On Earth we have stories about the fall of empires and the rise of new ones, she told them, but we learned something our ancestors didn't know. The most resilient empires aren't those that conquer most efficiently, but those that adapt most effectively. Ambassador Vrelta, older and wiser now than when he had first encountered humans, simply nodded. Perhaps all species need a little Deathworld thinking. As the reformed conclave embarked on a new era of cooperation and innovation, the lesson was clear. The traits that allowed a species to survive on a hostile world, adaptability, resilience, and cooperative problem-solving, were the same traits needed to build lasting civilizations among the stars. The Deathworlders had proven they didn't just win wars. They ruled empires, not through force or fear, but through the ability to embrace change and find opportunity in every challenge.